After I asked for just $100 to help with my medicine costs, my daughter-in-law said, "You contribute nothing but costs to this family." My son laughed. So I smiled and said, "Then the $7,000 monthly mortgage payment ends now." He nearly choked. His wife turned to him. "Mortgage? You said the house was paid off. If you're watching this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from." Ashley's words had sliced through the Christmas morning air like a knife through my heart. Kevin actually laughed at his wife's cruelty. So I smiled sweetly and said the 7 words that would change everything. "Then the $7,000 monthly mortgage payment ends now." Let me back up and explain how I ended up in this situation. My name is Margaret Sullivan, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 67, widowed for 3 years now, and apparently, according to my daughter-in-law, a financial burden on my own family. Isn't that rich? It started innocently enough. I'd been feeling under the weather for weeks: joint pain, fatigue, the usual suspects at my age. My doctor prescribed a new medication that would help, but it wasn't covered by Medicare. The cost? A modest $100 a month. Not exactly breaking the bank, but on a fixed income, every dollar counts. So there I was. Christmas morning at Kevin and Ashley's beautiful 4-bedroom colonial in suburban Connecticut. The tree was magnificent, presents piled high, and the smell of Ashley's famous cinnamon rolls filled the air. Emma and Tyler were tearing through wrapping paper with the enthusiasm only a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old can muster. I waited until the chaos died down before approaching Kevin. "Honey," I said quietly, "I hate to bring this up on Christmas, but I could really use some help with my new prescription costs. It's just $100 a month." The room went silent. Ashley looked up from her phone. One perfectly manicured eyebrow arched in that way I'd come to recognize as pure annoyance. "Are you serious right now, Margaret?" "It's for my arthritis medication," I explained, feeling heat creep up my neck. "The insurance doesn't. You contribute nothing but costs to this family," Ashley interrupted, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "First, the emergency room visit last month. Then the car repair you needed help with. And now this. When does it end?" I stood there stunned. In 3 years of living alone, I'd asked for help exactly 3 times. But apparently, that was 3 times too many for my son's wife, Kevin, my Kevin. The boy I'd raised alone after his father died. The boy I'd worked double shifts to put through college looked at his wife and laughed. Not a nervous laugh. Not an uncomfortable chuckle. A genuine, agreeable laugh. Something inside me snapped. "You're absolutely right, Ashley," I said, my voice calm as a lake before a storm. "I do contribute nothing but costs. So let's fix that right now. The $7,000 monthly mortgage payment I've been making on this house ends today." Kevin nearly choked on his coffee. Ashley's face went from smug to confused to pale in about 3 seconds flat. "Mortgage?" Ashley turned to Kevin, her voice barely a whisper. "You told me the house was paid off. You said your mother left you money when she died. Remember?" Kevin's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. But that's when things got really interesting. You should have seen Ashley's face when she realized her perfect little life was built on lies. Kevin looked like he was about to have a stroke. And honestly, I was starting to enjoy myself. "Kevin?" Ashley's voice was dangerously quiet. "What mortgage?" "I can explain," Kevin stammered, setting down his coffee cup with shaking hands. "Mom, please don't what?" I interrupted. "Don't tell your wife the truth. That you've been lying to her for 2 years about how you could afford this house?" Ashley slowly stood, her Christmas morning composure cracking like thin ice. 2 years? "Kevin, we bought this house 2 years ago. You said you had $80,000 for the down payment from your mother's inheritance." "He did have $80,000. I said helpfully. "From my late husband's life insurance policy, the money I gave him as a gift. When you decided to upgrade from your apartment." Kevin shot me a warning look. Oh, now he was worried about what I might say. "But Kevin," Ashley continued, her voice rising, "you told me your mother died when you were young. You said that's why Maggie wasn't your real mother, just your stepmother." The room fell silent, except for the soft hum of Christmas music still playing from Ashley's phone. Even the kids had stopped playing with their new toys. Sensing the tension, I couldn't help myself. I actually laughed out loud. "Stepmother?" I looked at Kevin with genuine amusement. "Is that what you told her? That I'm your stepmother?" Kevin's face was now a fascinating shade of red. "Mom, please." "Oh, this is precious," I continued. "Ashley, honey, I gave birth to this lying son of mine 32 years ago after 18 hours of labor. I have the stretch marks to prove it." Ashley sank back into her chair like someone had cut her strings. "You lied about your mother being dead." "I didn't lie exactly," Kevin said weakly. "I just simplified things." "Simplified?" Ashley's voice was climbing octaves. "You let me believe your mother was dead for 8 years of marriage." "Not dead," Kevin said desperately. "Just not around much." This was getting better by the minute, and I decided to help things along. Ashley, dear, did Kevin also simplify the part about my paying for Emma's piano lessons? Or Tyler's baseball equipment? Oh, and those lovely family vacations to Florida every summer? Ashley's mouth fell open. The Disney trips. You said your company paid for those as bonuses. My company? Kevin looked genuinely confused now. I work in accounting for a mid-sized firm. When have they ever given bonuses like that? I watched Ashley's world crumble in real time. And if I'm being honest, it was quite satisfying after years of being treated like an inconvenience. Kevin Michael Sullivan, Ashley said, and I had to give her credit for the full name treatment. How much money has your mother been giving us? Kevin looked at me pleadingly. I smiled back sweetly. Go ahead, son. Tell your wife exactly how much your dear old mother has contributed to your perfect little life. The silence stretched on like a funeral procession. Kevin was sweating through his Christmas sweater. Ashley looked like she'd seen a ghost. And I was having the most entertaining Christmas morning I'd had in years. Well? Ashley prompted, her voice icy enough to freeze hell over. Kevin cleared his throat. It's not as bad as it sounds. How much, Kevin? I decided to move things along. After all, we were burning daylight and I had plans to visit my friend Dorothy later. Should I tell her, or would you prefer the dignity of confessing yourself? I asked pleasantly. Kevin shot me a look that could have killed lesser women. Mom, this isn't helping. Oh, but I think it is helping, I replied. I think it's helping tremendously. Ashley deserves to know exactly what she's been living with. Ashley walked to the window, staring out at their perfectly manicured lawn, the same lawn I'd also been paying for through a monthly landscaping service. But I decided to save that revelation for later. The mortgage is $7,000 a month. Kevin finally said. Mom's been covering it since we bought the house, and? I prompted, and the utilities. And the landscaping, and? Kevin's shoulders slumped. The car payments. On the BMW, Ashley whirled around. My car? You said you got a raise. I did get a raise, just not that big of a raise. I was impressed in a twisted way. Kevin had managed to lie about virtually every aspect of their financial life. I'd raised him better than this, but somewhere along the way, he'd clearly forgotten the values I tried to instill. How much? Ashley whispered. Total, how much has she been paying? Kevin looked at me again. I examined my fingernails, freshly manicured at my own expense, of course, about $12,000 a month. He mumbled, $12,000? Ashley's voice cracked. Kevin, that's $144,000 a year. That's more than both our salaries combined. I was going to tell you. When? When were you going to tell me? When your mother died and the money stopped coming? The kids had quietly disappeared upstairs, probably sensing that Christmas morning had taken a decidedly adult turn. Ashley, Kevin tried again. You have to understand. When we got married, you had expectations. The house, the cars, the lifestyle. I just wanted to give you what you wanted with my mother's money. With family money, Kevin corrected weakly. Ashley laughed, but there was no humor in it. Family money that you convinced me didn't exist. Family money from a mother you let me believe was your stepmother at best and dead at worst. I stood up, smoothing my holiday dress. Well, this has been enlightening, but I should probably head home. Wait, Ashley said, turning to me. Why now? Why are you telling me this now? I picked up my purse and car keys. Because, dear Ashley, you just told me I contribute nothing but costs to this family. So I thought I'd show you exactly what those costs look like when they disappear. You can't just stop paying, Kevin said desperately. The house payment is due in a week. If we default, then I suggest you figure out how to make $7,000 in the next week. I replied cheerfully. Maybe Ashley can pick up some extra shifts. Or you could ask your company for one of those bonuses you've been telling her about. I headed for the door, then paused and turned back. Oh, and Kevin, next time you want to lie about your family, you might want to remember who raised you to be better than this. The drive home was peaceful. I even stopped for coffee and a Christmas cookie at my favorite bakery, but when I got home, I found something that changed everything. Sitting on my front porch was a thick manila envelope with my name written in Ashley's careful handwriting. Inside were copies of financial documents that made my blood run cold. I thought I knew everything about Kevin and Ashley's finances. After all, I'd been funding their lifestyle for 2 years. But these papers revealed a level of deception I hadn't even imagined. Credit card statements showing $67,000 in debt. A second mortgage on the very house I'd been paying for, one Kevin had taken out 6 months ago, without telling me. Bank statements showing a checking account with just $847 in it. Despite the fact that they both had decent jobs, and then came the kicker, a life insurance policy. On me, a $500,000 policy Kevin had taken out 18 months ago. listing himself as the sole beneficiary. I sat in my living room surrounded by evidence of my son's betrayal, and felt something I hadn't experienced in 67 years. Genuine fear of my own child. My phone rang. Ashley, did you get the envelope? She asked without preamble. I did. Where did you find all this? Kevin's been hiding documents in his office at work. I drove over there and demanded his supervisor let me into his desk. Turns out Kevin's been forging your signature on loan applications. I flipped through the papers again. Ashley, some of these show you as co-signing. If you didn't sign them, I didn't sign any of them. Not the second mortgage, not the credit cards, not the life insurance policy on you. Ashley's voice was shaking. Maggie, I think Kevin's been planning something. A chill ran down my spine. What kind of something? The life insurance policy was purchased right after you started getting those dizzy spells last year. Remember when you ended up in the emergency room? I remembered. I'd been having episodes of vertigo, and Kevin had been so attentive, insisting on driving me to appointments, sitting with me during tests. Ashley, are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you to be careful. Very careful. After hanging up, I sat in my recliner staring at the Christmas tree I'd decorated alone, as I had for the past 3 years. The same tree Kevin and Ashley had been too busy to help with, despite all the money I'd given them. My phone buzzed with a text from Kevin. Mom, we need to talk. Coming over now. I looked at the life insurance policy again. $500,000, more than enough to pay off their debts and keep their lifestyle afloat for years. Kevin had been my sweet boy, once the child who brought me dandelions and called them flowers. The teenager who worked part-time to help when money was tight. When had he become the stranger who forged documents and lied so easily? 20 minutes later, I heard Kevin's key in my lock. The key I'd given him for emergencies, an emergency he apparently now considered my refusal to bankroll his lies. Mom? He called. In the living room, I replied, tucking the documents behind my chair cushion. Kevin walked in looking haggard. His Christmas sweater was wrinkled, his hair disheveled. He looked like a man whose world was crumbling. Good, we need to fix this, he said without preamble. Ashley's talking about lawyers, divorce, pressing charges for the forged signatures. Maybe she should. Kevin's face paled. Mom, you don't understand. If this goes public, I'll lose my job, my license, everything. You should have thought of that before you started committing fraud. It's not fraud. It's family. You're my mother. Family helps family. I stood up, all 5'4" of me, and looked my son in the eye. Family doesn't take out life insurance policies on each other, Kevin. His face went completely white. You know about that? I know about all of it now. The second mortgage, the credit cards, the forged signatures, all of it. Kevin sank into the couch like a deflated balloon. I can explain. No, Kevin, you can't explain this away. Not this time. That's when I told him what I'd decided to do next, and his reaction was not what I expected. Instead of panic or shame, his face hardened into something I didn't recognize. You can't, he said flatly. I won't let you. Let me? I laughed, though there was no humor in it. Kevin, you seem to have forgotten something. I'm your mother, not your employee, and I'm your only family, he shot back. When you're old and sick and need someone to take care of you, Ashley and I are all you have. The threat was clear, and it landed exactly where he intended. But Kevin had underestimated his mother. Actually, I said, settling back into my chair. That's where you're wrong. I pulled out my phone and showed him a contact I'd been meaning to call for weeks. Elder care attorney, Dorothy had recommended. I've been doing some research, Kevin, about elder abuse, about financial exploitation, about what happens to sons who forge their mother's signature on legal documents. Kevin's confident expression faltered. You wouldn't. I also called my bank this morning, I continued. Amazing what you learn when you ask the right questions. Like how someone's been using my debit card information to make online purchases. Purchases I didn't authorize. That was just for household stuff, things for the kids. Identity theft. Kevin, that's what it's called when you use someone else's financial information without permission. Kevin stood up abruptly, his hands clenched into fists. You're making a mistake, Mom, a big mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting you. Ashley put you up to this, didn't she? She's always been jealous of our relationship. She can't stand that you love me more than her. I stared at my son, this stranger wearing Kevin's face, and felt something break inside me. That could never be repaired. Kevin, I need you to leave, now. This is my inheritance you're playing with, he shot back, his voice rising. Dad's life insurance money, the house equity. It's all supposed to come to me anyway, your inheritance. I stood up slowly. Kevin, let me tell you about your inheritance. I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder I'd hoped never to use. Inside were documents Kevin had never seen, papers from lawyers he didn't know I'd consulted. Your father left me everything, Kevin, the house, the investments, the life insurance, everything. I never legally had to share any of it with you. Kevin's face went ashen. That's not. Dad would never. Your father watched you from the time you were 16. He saw how you treated money, how you expected everything to be handed to you. He worried about what would happen if you inherited everything at once. I opened the folder and showed Kevin the will he'd never been allowed to see. He left it all to me, with instructions to provide for you gradually if I deemed you responsible enough to handle it. Kevin grabbed for the papers, but I pulled them back. These are copies. The originals are in a safe deposit box you don't have access to. You've been lying to me my whole life. I've been protecting you your whole life. But apparently, I should have protected myself instead. Kevin's phone buzzed with a text. He glanced at it, and his face went even paler. Ashley? I asked. He nodded wordlessly. What did she say? Kevin showed me the phone. The message was short and devastating. Locks changed. Don't come home. Divorce papers filed. For a moment, just a moment, Kevin looked like the lost little boy he'd been when his father died. But then his face hardened again. This is all your fault, he spat. If you hadn't opened your mouth this morning, if I hadn't opened my mouth, you'd still be lying to your wife and stealing from your mother. Kevin headed for the door, then turned back with a look that chilled me to the bone. You think you've won something here, Mom? You've just destroyed your only family. When you're dying alone in some nursing home. Remember this conversation. After he left, I sat in my living room for a long time, staring at the Christmas presents under my tree, presents for grandchildren I might never see again. Gifts for a son who had become a stranger. But then my phone rang, and everything changed again. Mrs. Sullivan. This is Detective Morrison with the Connecticut State Police Financial Crimes Unit. We need to talk. My hand tightened on the phone. About what? About your son Kevin and what appears to be a sophisticated financial fraud scheme involving elderly family members. You're not the only victim, Mrs. Sullivan. 20 minutes later, Detective Morrison and his partner, Detective Walsh, were sitting in my living room, looking through the documents Ashley had discovered. How long has this been going on? Detective Morrison asked. 2 years that I know of, I replied. But apparently longer than that. Detective Walsh looked up from the life insurance policy. Mrs. Sullivan, we've been investigating your son for 3 months. It started when another elderly woman came forward with similar complaints. A woman named Eleanor Hayes. Kevin was her financial advisor before he moved into accounting. She discovered he'd been forging her signature on investment documents, transferring money from her retirement accounts to accounts he controlled. My blood ran cold. How much? Over $200,000. She's 81 years old, lives alone, and trusted Kevin to help manage her finances after her husband died. I felt sick. Are there others? 3 more that we know of. All elderly widows. All alone. All trusting Kevin to help them with financial matters. Detective Morrison leaned forward. Mrs. Sullivan, what your son did to you wasn't just family dysfunction. It was part of a pattern of elder financial abuse. He's been targeting vulnerable seniors for years. I thought about all the times Kevin had offered to help with my banking, my investments, my bills, how he'd gradually taken over more and more of my financial life. Under the guise of being helpful, the life insurance policy, Detective Walsh said. That's what made us take a closer look at your situation. Taking out large life insurance policies on elderly family members without their knowledge is often a precursor to more serious crimes. More serious crimes, Detective Morrison repeated. Mrs. Sullivan, we've seen cases where financial abuse escalates to physical harm when the perpetrator feels trapped or desperate. I remembered Kevin's face when he'd left, the cold calculation in his eyes. Had I been in danger all this time without knowing it? What happens now? I asked. We need your full cooperation, Morrison said. We need you to document every financial transaction, every forged signature, every unauthorized access to your accounts. This case is bigger than just you and Kevin. Detective Morrison handed me a business card. Mrs. Sullivan, I want you to consider something. Your son has been stealing from elderly people for years. By coming forward, you're not just protecting yourself. You're protecting other families from going through what you've experienced. After the detectives left, I sat alone with my thoughts. Kevin wasn't just a son who'd lost his way. He was a predator who had been systematically stealing from vulnerable people. My phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. Maggie, I'm so sorry for everything. We need to talk. But before I could respond, there was a knock at my door. Through the peephole, I could see Kevin standing on my porch, his face twisted with rage. He knew about the police visit and he wasn't happy. That's when I realized my Christmas morning confrontation had been just the beginning. I opened the door with the chain still attached. Kevin's eyes were wild, desperate, and for the first time in my life, I was genuinely afraid of my own son. Let me in. Mom, we need to talk. I think we've talked enough for one day. Kevin, the cops were here. Weren't they? His voice was eerily calm. I saw their car leaving. I didn't answer, but my silence was confirmation enough. Mom, you have no idea what you've done. No idea what you've started. I started nothing, Kevin. You did this all by yourself. He pressed his face closer to the crack in the door. Those detectives, they don't know the whole story. They don't know about the gambling debts. My blood turned to ice. What gambling debts? The people I owe money to, Mom, they're not the patient type. If I can't pay them back. He let the threat hang in the air. How much, Kevin? 80,000. Due next week. I closed my eyes. Even after everything, some part of me wanted to help him. But that part was getting smaller by the minute. That's not my problem anymore. Kevin's mask slipped completely. It will be your problem when they come looking for their money. These aren't bill collectors, Mom. These are dangerous people. Then you'd better figure out how to handle dangerous people. Because you're not getting another penny from me. Fine. Kevin stepped back from the door. But remember, you chose this. Whatever happens next, you chose it. After he left, I called Detective Morrison immediately. Mrs. Sullivan, what's wrong? Kevin was just here. He mentioned gambling debts $80,000. There was a pause. That explains a lot. Mrs. Sullivan, I need you to pack a bag tonight. We're going to put you somewhere safe until we can arrest your son. You really think he'd hurt me? Mrs. Sullivan, desperate people do desperate things. And your son just became very desperate. 2 hours later, I was sitting in a modest hotel room across town, watching the local news with Detective Walsh. The story was breaking. Local man arrested in elder fraud scheme. Kevin's mugshot filled the screen. The reporter was describing how police had arrested him at an underground poker game, trying to bet money he didn't have. He didn't even make it 12 hours. Detective Walsh said with grim satisfaction. Desperation makes people stupid, but the story wasn't over. The reporter continued, police say this is just the beginning of a larger investigation into organized elder fraud in the tri-state area. Detective Walsh looked at me. Mrs. Sullivan, there's something else you need to know. Kevin wasn't working alone. The next morning brought news that would change everything I thought I knew about my son's crimes. Ashley, I stared at Detective Morrison in disbelief. You're saying Ashley was involved? Not initially, he clarified. But we found evidence that she discovered Kevin's activities months ago. And instead of reporting them, she helped him expand the operation. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. But she's the one who brought me the documents. She's the one who exposed him. Think about it, Mrs. Sullivan. How did she know exactly where to find all those papers? How did she know which documents to look for? The pieces started falling into place. Ashley's sudden interest in my finances over the past year. Her questions about my other assets. Her insistence that I should simplify my banking by letting Kevin handle everything. She had been planning to turn on him all along. I realized we think so. Detective Morrison said quietly. Our investigation shows Ashley was positioning herself to be the victim. When Kevin inevitably got caught, she'd keep the house, claim she was deceived, and walk away clean. He pulled out a tablet and showed me screenshots of text messages between Kevin and Ashley. These are from 3 months ago. He said, Ashley to Kevin, we need an exit strategy. Your mother's getting suspicious. Kevin's response, don't worry. I can handle my mother. I read through more messages, each one more damning than the last. Ashley suggesting which elderly clients would be the easiest targets. Kevin reporting back on how much money he'd managed to steal from each victim. Mrs. Sullivan. Detective Walsh said gently. Ashley filed for divorce yesterday, but not because she was outraged by Kevin's crimes. She filed because she knew we were closing in and she wanted to protect her assets. How long have you been watching them? I asked. 6 months, Morrison replied. Mrs. Eleanor Hayes wasn't the first victim to come forward. She was just the first one brave enough to file charges. Detective Morrison leaned forward. Mrs. Sullivan, we need you to help us with something. Ashley doesn't know we're onto her yet. She thinks she successfully played the role of the innocent wife. What do you need me to do? We need you to meet with her. Wear a wire. Get her to confess to her role in the scheme. I thought about Ashley's perfect smile, her carefully manicured appearance, the way she'd made me feel like an unwanted burden in my own son's life, all while planning to rob me blind. When do we start? I asked. The meeting was set for the next afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. Ashley had texted me, claiming she wanted to make things right and discuss how we could move forward as a family. As I walked into the coffee shop with a recording device taped to my chest, I wondered how I'd missed the signs that both my son and my daughter-in-law were predators. Ashley was already there, looking perfectly put together despite supposedly having her world turned upside down. She hugged me like we were old friends instead of co-conspirators in her husband's downfall. Maggie, I'm so glad you agreed to meet with me, she said. her voice dripping with false sincerity. Of course, dear. Family is family, right? Ashley's smile faltered for just a moment. Exactly. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about our situation. Our situation? I asked. Well, with Kevin in jail, I'm going to need your help more than ever. The mortgage, the bills, the children's expenses. I can't do this alone. I sipped my coffee, marveling at her audacity. I see. And what exactly are you proposing? I think we should make our arrangement official, legal. You could sign over power of attorney to me and I'll make sure all your finances are properly managed. There it was. Ashley wasn't done stealing from me, she was just getting started. That's very thoughtful of you. Ashley, I said slowly, but I have to ask, why now? Why are you suddenly so concerned about my finances? Ashley's eyes hardened for just a moment before the sweet smile returned. Because, Maggie, Kevin kept you in the dark about so many things. The real state of our finances, the debts, the obligations. You need someone you can trust to help you navigate all of this. Someone I can trust, I repeated. Like you? Exactly like me. That's when I told her something that made her face go completely white. Ashley, I know about the offshore accounts. The color drained from her face so fast I thought she might faint. Her coffee cup rattled against the saucer. As she set it down with shaking hands, I don't know what you're talking about, she whispered. The Cayman Islands account, the one with $247,000 in it. Money from Mrs. Hayes, Mrs. Patterson, and the others. Did you really think the police wouldn't find it? Ashley's perfectly composed mask cracked completely. How did you know about it, Ashley? I asked softly. Honey, when you're under federal investigation for financial crimes, they look at everything, every account, every transaction, every lie you've told. She looked around the coffee shop frantically as if searching for an escape route. Maggie, you don't understand. Kevin forced you to help steal from elderly people? Forced you to open secret accounts? Forced you to lie to me for 2 years? You don't know what it was like living with him, Ashley said, her voice rising and causing other customers to glance our way. The pressure, the constant demands for money. He said if I didn't help him, he'd leave me with nothing. So you decided to steal from his victims instead of leaving him? It wasn't supposed to go this far, Ashley said, tears starting to flow. It was just supposed to be temporary. Just until Kevin could get a better job, make more money legitimately. I leaned back in my chair, studying this woman who'd shared holiday dinners with me, who'd let me babysit her children, who'd called me mom for 8 years. Ashley, what was the plan for me? I asked. She looked confused. What do you mean? The life insurance policy, the gradual takeover of my finances. What was the end game? Ashley went very still. There was no end game, don't lie to me. Not anymore. The police already know about the nursing home applications you filled out in my name. The ones where you claimed I was incompetent and needed full-time care. Ashley's face went ashen. That was Kevin's idea. Was it Kevin's idea to list yourself as my emergency contact to research facilities? That would give you financial control as my responsible party. The coffee shop suddenly felt very quiet despite the normal afternoon crowd. Ashley stared at me like I was a stranger. How long have you been working with the police? She whispered. Since yesterday. They've been watching you and Kevin for months. Ashley, every phone call, every text message, every financial transaction. They know everything. Ashley stood up abruptly, knocking over her chair. This is entrapment. You can't use anything, I said. I want a lawyer. You can have all the lawyers you want, dear. But it won't change what you've already done. Ashley grabbed her purse and started toward the door, then turned back with a look of pure hatred. You sanctimonious old witch. You think you're so innocent. You enabled all of this. Every time you wrote a check, every time you paid a bill, you made it possible. You're right, I said calmly. I did enable it by trusting my family, by believing people I loved wouldn't steal from me. That was my mistake. Your mistake was thinking you mattered, Ashley snarled. You were never family. You were just a bank account with legs. She stormed out, leaving me alone with my cold coffee and the recording device that had captured every word. Detective Morrison appeared at my table within minutes. We got it all, Mrs. Sullivan, every confession, every admission of guilt. What happens now? I asked. Now we arrest Ashley and close down this operation for good. But as we left the coffee shop, Detective Morrison's phone rang. His face went grim as he listened. Mrs. Sullivan, we have a problem. Kevin just made bail. How is that possible? Someone posted his bond. Someone with very deep pockets and very bad intentions. That's when I learned the truth about who was really behind my son's crimes. The money came from Vincent Castellano, Detective Morrison said as we sat in his unmarked car. Ever heard of him? I shook my head, but something cold crawled up my spine. He runs the largest illegal gambling operation in the tri-state area, loan sharking. money laundering, and apparently elder fraud. You're saying Kevin was working for organized crime? I asked. We think Kevin started small, just stealing from you and a few clients. But when he got in over his head with gambling debts, Castellano offered him a deal, work off the debt by recruiting elderly victims. For a larger operation, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Kevin, Detective Morrison looked at the message. He's not supposed to contact you. That's a violation of his bail conditions. Another text arrived. Parking garage behind your hotel. Come alone or Ashley dies. My blood turned to ice. They have Ashley. That's impossible. We arrested her an hour ago. A third text arrived, this one with a photo attached. Ashley bound and gagged in what looked like a warehouse somewhere. Detective Morrison was already on his radio. All units, we have a hostage situation. Suspect is Kevin Sullivan, armed and dangerous. I have to go, I said, reaching for the car door. Mrs. Sullivan, you cannot go to that meeting. This is exactly what he wants. It's a trap. He's desperate, cornered, and willing to do anything to get out of this. Ashley might be terrible, but she doesn't deserve to die because of Kevin's mistakes. My phone rang. Kevin's number. Answer it, Detective Morrison said. But keep him talking. We're tracking the call, Kevin. Mom, I'm sorry it came to this. I really am. But you've left me no choice. Let Ashley go. She has children, Kevin, your children. My children who I'll never see again because you destroyed my life. I didn't destroy anything. Kevin, you did this to yourself, maybe, but you could have helped me fix it. Instead, you chose to side with strangers over your own son. In the background, I could hear Ashley crying, pleading for her life. What do you want, Kevin? I asked. I want my life back. I want you to call Detective Morrison and tell him you made a mistake, that you lied about everything. I can't do that, then Ashley dies. And it's on your conscience. The line went dead. Detective Morrison was already coordinating with multiple units, barking orders into his radio. Mrs. Sullivan, we're going to get Ashley back safely, but I need you to stay here. No, I unbuckled my seatbelt. Kevin will never believe I'm alone if he sees police cars, but he might trust his mother. Mrs. Sullivan, Detective, I'm 67 years old. I've been manipulated, stolen from, and threatened by my own son. I've lost my family, my savings, and my sense of safety. But I'll be damned if I let him become a murderer. 20 minutes later, I walked into the parking garage alone, or at least appearing to be alone. Detective Morrison and his team were positioned around the building, but Kevin would only see me. He emerged from behind a concrete pillar, looking haggard and desperate. Holding a gun. Where's Ashley? I asked. Somewhere safe for now. Kevin, put the gun down. You're scaring me. Good, maybe you'll finally take me seriously. I stepped closer, my hands visible and empty. What do you want from me, son? I want you to fix this. Call the police and tell them you lied. Tell them I never stole anything, never forged any documents. I can't do that. Kevin, too many people know the truth. Then Ashley dies. No, she doesn't. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. Because Ashley was never kidnapped. That photo you sent, it was from a college theater production she did years ago. The police verified it an hour ago. Kevin's face went blank with confusion. You're losing your mind. Kevin, desperation has made you sloppy. There is no warehouse. There is no kidnapping. There's just you alone with a gun, threatening your mother in a parking garage. That's when Kevin realized he'd been played. His reaction changed everything. He lowered the gun, his face cycling through confusion, rage, and finally broke in defeat. It was never real, was it? He whispered. The photo, the threats. I made it all up in my head. Kevin, when did you last sleep? Really sleep? He looked at me like he was seeing me for the first time. I can't remember. I stepped closer, my maternal instincts overriding my fear. Son, you need help. Real help. I ruined everything, didn't I? Kevin dropped the gun. It clattered harmlessly across the concrete. My marriage, my children, my relationship with you, everything. Detective Morrison and his team moved in quickly, securing the weapon and placing Kevin in handcuffs. But Kevin didn't resist. He looked like a man who'd finally reached the end of a very long, very destructive road. Mrs. Sullivan, Detective Morrison asked, are you all right? I looked at my son, my broken, criminal son, and felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. I'm fine. We're all fine now. 6 months later, I sat in a courthouse listening to a judge sentence Kevin to 7 years in federal prison for elder fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. Ashley received 4 years for her role as an accomplice. The other victims, Mrs. Hayes, Mrs. Patterson, and 3 others, sat with me in the gallery. We'd become an unlikely support group, bound together by shared betrayal and the long road to recovery. When the judge asked if I had a victim impact statement to make, I stood up slowly. Your Honor, Kevin Sullivan is my son. I raised him, loved him, and trusted him with my financial security. His crimes didn't just steal my money. They stole my sense of family, my sense of safety, and my ability to trust. I paused, looking at Kevin's back as he sat at the defendant's table, but I want the court to know that Kevin's actions don't define all of us in this room. Mrs. Hayes has started a support group for elder fraud victims. Mrs. Patterson now volunteers with senior legal aid services. We've turned our pain into purpose. Kevin turned then, meeting my eyes for the first time since his arrest. In that moment, I saw the boy I had raised, the man he could have been, and the stranger he chose to become. Your Honor, I continued, justice isn't just about punishment, it's about protection. Protecting other families from experiencing what we've been through. I support the sentence you're considering, not out of vengeance, but out of hope. Hope that Kevin will finally get the help he needs and that other potential victims will be spared. After court, I stepped outside into the spring sunshine, feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, my granddaughter. Grandma, can I come visit you this weekend? I miss you. Ashley had lost custody to her parents, who'd reached out to me immediately. Margaret, Emma's grandmother, had said, the children need their grandmother, their real grandmother. I texted back, of course, sweetheart. I'll make your favorite cookies. That evening, I sat on my front porch, my paid-off, mortgage-free porch, reading a letter from Dorothy Hayes. She wrote to tell me about the elder fraud prevention program we were starting together, funded in part by money recovered from Kevin and Ashley's accounts. We're going to save other families, she'd written. We're going to make sure our suffering counts for something. As the sun set, I reflected on the strange journey that had brought me here. A year ago, I thought family meant accepting whatever treatment I received, paying whatever costs were demanded, and being grateful for whatever scraps of affection came my way. Now I understood something deeper. Real family, the family I was building with Emma and Tyler, with Dorothy and the other survivors, with the community of people who supported me through this ordeal, was built on respect, honesty, and genuine care. Kevin had taken my money, my trust, and my peace of mind. But in a way, he had also given me something unexpected, the strength to demand better for myself, and the wisdom to see the difference between family and people who simply share your blood. My phone rang. Emma again. Grandma, I love you. I love you too, sweetheart, I said. More than you'll ever know, and for the first time in years, I meant it without reservation. Without fear, I was free. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.